Ladies and gents, boys and girls, happy Monday, November the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We have got a jam-packed show for you here on this Monday. I see Panic Ritter, Curtis Schull, Todd Smith, Jacob Travey, Noah Johns, John Edward. What's going on? Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC questions, should be sure your questions are answered there. Guys, again, jam-packed show. College basketball is officially back as both men's and women's for not just South Carolina, but the entire SEC and all of college basketball will begin their seasons today. Of course, South Carolina taking on Notre Dame in Paris at 1 o'clock, that being the women, and the men tip off year 2 of the Lamont Paris era tonight at Colonial Life Arena. I think that's a 7 o'clock tip-off. Gamecocks are a double-digit favorite in that one. The SEC action gets going later today. Georgia and Oregon getting things rolling, I believe, at like 4:30 or so. So, action is back on the hardwood. We got a lot to talk about in regards to football. Of course, guys, a jam-packed Week 10. South Carolina beats Jacksonville State 38-28. Some late-game heroics. Lots to take away, and a quick PSA, or getting out ahead of this, or however you want to say it. There may be some that label my existence as miserable due to some of my takes regarding Saturday's win over Jacksonville State. I want to go ahead and get ahead of that. Go ahead and get that out there. No, we'll talk about the game, positives, negatives, the good, the bad, the ugly, what have you, and what we learned about South Carolina and what we can take away from that 10-point win. Outside of that, guys, again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Truly, thank you all so much for the continued love and support. I know we had no TDC on Thursday and Friday. Appreciate you all showing love and support to the content during that time. And guys, let me say this. It was a very, very rewarding experience at the Growth Summit in Columbia, South Carolina. I want to take time on my airwaves to express my gratitude for the opportunity to get on stage and speak and share my entrepreneurial journey, past, present, and future, things that we have in our sights, our visions, our goals, our aspirations. Also, the great people that I met at the Growth Summit, guys, that was truly the greatest blessing. And I actually mentioned that when I was on stage, that similar to SEC Media Days, where it was really, really cool getting to talk to coaches and players and all that good stuff, the networking aspect and the meeting of great people aspect, that was by far the best part of the week. And that was by far the best part of the Growth Summit, and made some relationships and made some connections that I think are going to I know are going to positively impact my growth as an entrepreneur, my growth as a human being, and really, really good stuff. So we had a great time at Growth Summit, guys, a great time in Columbia, South Carolina. And again, appreciate you all rolling with the punches, obviously with no TDC on those 2 days. But we're back, rock and rolling, normal schedule this week, noon to 2, Monday through Friday. We talk all things SEC basketball, football, obviously, as we get closer to week 11. Gamecocks and Vanderbilt will play Saturday. Again, another noon kickoff. We'll learn today about what the kickoff time will be for Kentucky. So again, jam-packed Monday, guys, as always. And we kick it off. Our good friend, Chris Doering of SEC Network. He is going to join us right now. Guys, we talked everything. Really fun conversation. They're always fun with Chris. They're always a lot of fun. But this one was a lot of fun, just breaking everything down. There's a big bet between him and Jacob Hester this week with Florida LSU. Really good stuff, guys. So again, great stuff from our friend Chris Doering. He's a legend, one of the best in the business, and he brought the heat in this conversation. So guys, sit back, relax, enjoy this conversation with our good friend Chris Doering of SEC Network. All right, guys, he joins us every single Monday, and I look forward to the conversation every single week as we talk all things SEC football, and he is one of the best in the business at doing so. Chris Doering of SEC Network. He joins the show once again. Chris, how are you, my friend? Appreciate you doing it.
I'm good. No, it's good to be on with you, man. It's hard to believe we're running out of weeks here, man. Not many Mondays left of doing this, bro.
Not many Mondays left before you know it, Chris. We'll be back in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Let's start, though, looking back at week 10, South Carolina escapes near disaster in that game against Jacksonville State, getting the W. Chris, you look at the game, though, for a team that was just looking for a win, lost 4 in a row. I mean, Mississippi State, the last time they won, felt like forever ago. To get back in the win column, you know what you have to do to get to a bowl game, go undefeated down the stretch. It was ugly a lot of times, and there's a lot of things to clean up. But, Chris, you know as well as I do, when you're cold and you can get a victory, at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win, and that's what South Carolina had to have in that football game.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville State's a better team than probably people would recognize just by the name. Obviously, transitioning into playing at the Division I level, but Rich Rodriguez, he hadn't forgotten how to coach, and obviously that was true on Saturday. It was funny because I think the reason that they almost lost the game was because of the defense, but in the end, the reason they won the game was because of the defense as well. 4 takeaways, including the pick 6 that ended up kind of sealing it for South Carolina. But definitely some things to clean up, and certainly the explosive plays that they gave up on that side of the ball were unacceptable. But getting a win, getting some positive vibes, getting a little momentum, as you said, heading into the next 3 ball games that they've got to win. I give Shane Beamer a lot of credit. He does a great job of getting guys back on track and getting the most positive attitude in some of the toughest situations. So I'm anxious to see if they can continue to put something together. And who knows what happens? We never would have expected South Carolina to end the way they did last year with those Tennessee and Clemson wins in back-to-back weeks. So who knows what's next for the Gamecocks?
Spencer Rattler balls out yet again. Chris Doering, Xavier Legette.
I need you to tell me what in the water is going on there that causes Spencer Rattler to have the fast starts every single week. It seems like this guy comes out of the box, 11 for 11, 18 for 18. Now, what was he, 9 of 10, I think, at one point in time in that game. Like, it's amazing how prepared he looks and how much he is able to get in a rhythm from the get-go. I mean, inevitably, you think about a quarterback having an off day, or you think about a pitcher not having his stuff, but Spencer Rattler, just for whatever reason, man, he seems like he's incredibly focused and comes out and just executes from snap number 1, man.
And Chris, the splits home and road are just insane because and I know the competition, you take into account who they play, but I mean, he's been electric at Williams-Brice Stadium. And again, the good news is the rest of their games are at Williams-Brice Stadium against some pretty manageable defenses. I wanted to get to, though, Chris, I think over the summer I asked you about Juice Wells and his game and making a comp for him when you looked at him, what you saw. Xavier Legette's been the one that's taken over. He was huge in that game yet again. When you watch his game, is there any player comp or anybody that you see or you think of that he reminds you of when you watch his game right now?
I'm not good at that game. Maybe there's somebody you have in mind that I can that'll jog a memory for me. But I just look at this guy as somebody that I thought was, kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out in past years, and this year to see the start that he began the year with and the consistency, especially with not having a real number 2 receiver to complement him, has just been really impressive. He can take the short passes, the distance. He can catch the ones over the top. I think he's a tremendous weapon, and certainly when he's healthy, he's as dangerous as there is in the SEC.
Chris, let's go to Gainesville.
No. Do you have somebody? I want to hear who do you think it is?
I see. I'm going to sound crazy for this one. I'm more so going, I think, body type, but I go to DK Metcalf. That's just like, I know he's not the body of work in college, but like this year specifically, and watching him bully some teams and just seeing the physique, I'm like, it's like DK Metcalf light. That's where I go. So
that's a good
he's
comp.
different.
Yeah.
He's honestly different than any other South Carolina wide receiver I've seen from that standpoint. Like, there's been a lot of good ones, a lot of great ones at that position. But with that build, I don't know that I've seen many at South Carolina. Metcalf is the first place I go. That's where my mind goes when I look at him.
Yeah, I like the big physical wide receivers. It's funny, when I was a kid, that was the time of the run and shoot offenses. And I remember seeing an article in the newspaper about the ideal run and shoot receiver, being a 5'10" guy that was quick. And like, I was 6'4", I was thinking like, golly, this is not good for me. And it's evolved really into being about having big guys on the outside. And so I played with Ed McCaffrey, who was one of the biggest, most physical guys you could possibly play with, and learn from him. And I think I always respect guys that play the position, that take the fight to the defense instead of letting the defense kind of dictate the level of physicality that the game is played in.
Now, Chris, they honored the 2000, I believe, 9-13 South Carolina team. So Coach Spurrier back in Columbia, and he was recalling each year, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13. He got to the Outback Bowl that they played against Michigan, and he threw out the comment, "We didn't let him get our signals that day." Does it surprise you at all that he's got those zingers still in him right now?
Does not surprise me at all, man. He's been doing it forever, whether it was the Free Shoes University or whether it was the Can't Spell Citrus Without UT. Always like taking shots at the opponents, and that's a well-timed one, obviously, right there.
And it's always so effortless with the HBC. It's organic. That's a beautiful thing about it. Chris, I don't mean to put you in a bad mood, I should say. To Gainesville we go. It feels like with Florida, every time there's a step taken forward, there has to be one or even two taken back. And I know a lot of Gator fans would argue there were a couple maybe potentially taken back on Saturday, losing to an Arkansas team that just fired their offensive coordinator. And they explode for a big offensive day. Admittedly, Chris, I didn't get to watch every snap of that game. What went wrong for Florida? And now, what's the bowl outlook like? Because it only gets tougher from here to try to get that sixth win.
Let me start on the positive side, and let me praise the job that the Arkansas team did to get back on track. This team that lost 6 games in a row, they really were in a rut. Obviously, as you mentioned, fired Dan Enos. Kenny Guyton gets the opportunity to be elevated to the interim offensive coordinator position. I thought he did a good job of simplifying the playbook. They didn't do a ton on offense, but they did the things that their team is best suited for, and that's getting KJ Jefferson involved in the run game. 17 carries for 92 yards. Some of those called, some of those scrambles where he makes plays happen. Rocket Sanders back, runs for over 100 yards. Offensive line, who hadn't really blocked well at all season, finds a way to create a little bit of a run game. Over 200 yards on the ground in this one. So I give them credit for coming out and playing hard. I knew it was going to be a tough game. It was a tough spot for Florida coming after the Georgia game. They just didn't look like they had a lot of juice early, find themselves down 14-0 quickly, fight back at the end of the first quarter. It's knotted back up at 14. And Florida had multiple chances to finish the game. And I said this on our show on Saturday night. Good teams find ways to win. Bad teams find ways to lose. And Florida found ways to lose. And the thing that bothers me, Chris, is the disorganization or the lack of real procedural command in tough situations. You get the opportunity to clock this. You get in field goal range at the end of regulation. All you got to do is clock the ball here. You get a first down. The clock's already stopped. Florida's running on their field goal team and substituting like that is simple. Graham Mertz knew exactly what to do. He gets to the line of scrimmage trying to clock it, and they get a illegal substitution penalty because they're sending people on from the sideline. Like, it reminds me a lot of the Utah game where it just looks like complete disarray on the sideline. So yeah, I don't know why they don't by now have this thing figured out, but it really does scare me about the future. This coaching staff's done a great job in terms of recruiting and creating some talent upgrades, but in terms of in-game coaching, I've got to see some improvement because it is very frustrating to watch the same things happen. We're in week 10 and the same things are happening that happened in week 1.
Chris, I was told by a couple of Florida guys when the Gamecocks and Gators played that Florida does not have a special teams coach, and which to me seems ironic because special teams has cost Florida time and time and time again. I mean, the question I was going to ask you is, how does Billy Napier get that fixed? But I mean, maybe hiring a special teams coach would be a good start. I mean, it's got to get fixed though. It's just an eyesore at this point.
I don't, you bring that up, and I guess I'll take that as being the truth. I don't know. I mean, I know that they went out and opened the checkbook and hired all sorts of on-field and off-field and analysts and everything else positions that Coach Napier said he needed when he got to Florida. For whatever reason, though, the collective isn't really getting it done right now. So yeah, you're right. The special teams have been atrocious. Trace Mack's going on the field to try to kick a game-winning field goal. and it's just chaos on the sideline. Like if you can at least spike the ball, let the kicker run out there, focus on kicking instead of having him all overly hyped. I mean, I think he's got a better chance to make it potentially. It's a kick he's got to make. I'm not making excuses. They mess up an extra point early in the game, which obviously comes back to haunt them as well. The defense doesn't make plays when they have opportunities. They were atrocious as well. 3rd and 9, you got KJ dead to rights on a blitz that you can't bring it down. It really reminds me a lot of South Carolina's failures at the end of the Florida game. So what comes around goes around, I guess. But you watch Georgia, you watch Alabama, they find ways to win. I felt like Florida found a way to lose this game, and it was one they should have certainly been able to have.
Chris, speaking of Georgia, let's go to Athens. We need to highlight the Dogs and what they did. Beat a really good Missouri team. Like, people need to recognize that's a really good Mizzou team. 30-21, the final. What did you see from the back-to-back national champions? Again, just doing the little things right, getting it done on the home.
It really wasn't flashy by any means, and this was a game where the Georgia Bulldogs took some shots from Missouri. I was impressed again. They have no fear of the Bulldogs, the back-to-back national champions. Missouri takes it right to them, hits Luther Burden on the long touchdown in the first quarter to get up. It's tied at halftime, but Georgia, they are one of the best halftime adjustment coaching staffs in college football. The way they came out after the South Carolina first half and took control of that game was kind of similar to what they did in this one as well. Nothing really flashy about Carson Beck's numbers or the rushing yards or the defense. It's just a great to complete team win where you go out, the defense sets you up for 2 takeaways. You don't turn the ball over, so you're +2 in the turnover margin. Your defense forces 2 field goals out of the 3 red zone trips. You can't beat Georgia if you're settling for field goals and you're turning the football over and not getting takeaways of your own. I just thought it was a very workmanlike, blue-collar win that doesn't really look all that great in the stat sheet, but at the end of the day, you beat a really good team, and you're able to move on and 2 down, 2 to go in that tough slate portion of your schedule, man.
Without Brock Bowers, by the way. Without Brock Bowers. And Ladd McConkey stepping up, and I was going to say, Chris, I know for you, obviously, a wide receiver at heart, you had a lot of fun, I'd have to imagine, watching the highlights of that game with guys like McConkey, Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett. Then you got on the other side, Theo Weiss Jr., Luther Burden. I mean, the star power was out at the wide receiver position for both of those teams. How impressed, let me just say this, how impressive to you, Chris, and they've still got a ways to go, some really tough challenges, of course, the game against Ole Miss, that game in Knoxville. But I mean, what Georgia's doing without Brock Bowers, and I know McConkey's gotten healthy, stepping up, but I mean, it's really impressive. I feel like everybody's kind of waiting on Georgia to fall, and if they get through this slate undefeated without him, I think that's really going to say a lot about them.
Yeah, Kirby mentioned in this post-game press conference, we're a next man up team, and they've really recruited incredibly well and developed guys that when they get their opportunity, step up and answer the bell. And I thought Oscar Delp played well. Caught a touchdown pass, played well in the run game as an attached tight end in the blocking of the edge there. McConkey, as you mentioned, close to 100 yards receiving, was really Carson Beck's go-to guy. They just have a lot of guys on offense and defense that are unselfish and do their job. And one day it may be their opportunity to put up big stats. Another day it may be more of a secondary supporting role. But they're all about winning football games, and that's why they haven't lost a home game in Sanford Stadium since 2019, and they've won the last 2 national championships, and I think they do it again here coming up in January.
Chris, to Tuscaloosa, the big one, LSU and Alabama. It's always a classic when these two teams meet. That was just a fun football game, man. Like, I was watching that game, and it was unfortunate, obviously, Jalen Daniels goes down with the injury late, but that reminded me of a game in which when you and your buddies are playing NCAA or Madden and you both have mobile quarterbacks and you're just taking off scrambling with those quarterbacks in the video game. Like, it looked like I was watching a video game.
You know what it was?
Go at it.
I like that analogy, but it more so to me, it's like watching a high school football game where you put your best athlete at the quarterback position and you tell them to just go make plays. And the majority of the plays that both of those quarterbacks made were just improvisation. Like Jaden Daniels, the thing what I would do with him every down, and they do it a lot, I would just empty out the backfield, go 5 wide, and make a defense commit what they're going to do. Are they going to try to bring 6 and overload the pressure? And if you do, then you're throwing slants and you're hitting and going. If not, you got a hat for a hat and let Jaden Daniels just try to find his way. And he's very patient. He's like he kind of glides and then finds a little gap and hits it hard. And I mean, he had to run. I think he had a 24-yard run, two 28-yard runs, a 40-yard run. Obviously, he was difficult to stop, as was Jalen Milroe. I mean, you can't say enough about what Milroe did. 4 touchdowns on the ground himself, and like this is a fun offensive shootout, and you felt bad because the only way you're going to stop LSU was what they did there. They got a tip one time and the ball gets intercepted. But you got to feel like Jay Daniels would have brought them back, at least had them in the ball game. But I'm not sure LSU was ever going to get a stop on Alabama either. So it was exactly what we expected it to be, a high scoring shootout. But at the end of the day, I credit Alabama. They've come a long way from where they were in week 2 and week 3. But they got back to being Alabama, ran the football extremely well, got Jalen Milroe involved in the run game, something we wanted to see a little bit more of. And they possessed the football in the fourth quarter for 11 minutes and 14 seconds. That's talk about 4-minute offense. That's what Alabama used to do, take the air out of the ball at the end of the ball game. They haven't been able to do it the last couple of years, but to me, that was a great sign. Their ability to run, not only Milroe, but the rest of the running backs, and the ability to possess the football and not give LSU's offense a chance to bring them back late.
To your point, Chris, when I was watching that fourth quarter, it reminded me of something I heard one time. It's not about can you run the football. It's about can you run the football when you want to and when you have to. And that's in the fourth quarter of a game when you're imposing your will on the opponent. And back to the quarterbacks, Chris, what really stood out to me is like we know the team speed on LSU and Bama's elite. And I was watching those guys running, like I was like everybody else around them looked so slow.
Yeah. It's funny.
It was insane. I couldn't believe how fast they looked.
I went back and watched the tape on Sunday, and it was exactly what you're saying. When Jay Daniels had the football, we're talking about the highest recruited players in the country on that Alabama defense, and they looked like slow little kids. They couldn't keep up with him at all. And the same was true for LSU's defense when Jalen Milroe had the football. It's impressive just how good those players are. And not just running the ball, but Jaden Daniels made a throw down the right sideline that was as good as I've seen him make. The precision with great coverage. I want to say it was maybe Malik Neighbors down the sideline, but 1 foot in, like it was just a perfect throw. You can't stop them. You either hope that they make a mistake, a receiver drops the ball, or a ball gets tipped and you picked it off. And both of those things happened, and that's what the difference in the football game was.
Chris, I got to ask you about the Dallas Turner hit on Jaden Daniels. What were your feelings on it? I know that it's funny when you're the Bama fan or you're on that side, you're like, hey, good hard-nosed football. I saw LSU fans, they want to file a lawsuit against the SEC and the officiating. I think it was a good hard-nosed football play. I understand why in that ball game you hate that it takes your quarterback out. I don't think it was dirty or anything of the sort. Like what did you take? Did you think it was dirty? Did you think it was time? What did you think?
No, Benjamin Watson and I were sitting in studio watching this, and we said, man, back when we were playing, you'd be celebrating a hit like that. That's one that you see on the highlight videos. You come in, you wrap up, you hit a guy hard, and you take him down. I understand it's a new day and age in football. I don't think he launched. I think if you slow it down and freeze it, maybe it looks like his helmet, is hitting him under the chin, which obviously it did. But I don't think it was a dirty play at all. I do think it was probably deserving of a roughing the passer call, which it got, but I don't think it was a targeting call that would have, gotten Dallas Turner out for the rest of the night.
I wouldn't expect, Chris, you to have much sympathy as a guy that went across the middle and dealt with safeties back in the 90s.
Nope, not at all, man. It's funny. Like, I would love to play in today's college football, man. No fear of really getting your head taken off. You remember back in the day, it was the old Crunch Course NFL videos. It was the knocked up on Monday Night Countdown. And nowadays, it is a totally different football game, which is great. I love guys being able to be protected, but it's certainly a different style of play than what we played in.
Yeah, Chris, to your point, I remember growing up going on YouTube and watching the big hit videos like Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm just here, Chris. You're in one piece and made it through, and you didn't get separated in the process. So
very, very fortunate for sure.
I didn't touch on the Ole Miss A&M game, Chris. Of course, everybody wants to go right to the conversation with Jimbo Fisher job. Let's give credit to Ole Miss, though. I mean, they just keep on keeping on. Like They still don't get they get a lot of credit and notoriety because of Lane Kiffin. He goes on College Game Day, go Tigers. That was really funny. He's the king of trolling and poking and prodding, but he's got a damn good football team too.
Yeah,
I mean, they
yeah.
just keep on keeping on, man.
I thought Texas A&M would win this football game because the matchup was not favorable for Ole Miss, particularly the front seven for A&M going up against an offensive line that they've been running the ball better behind them. But the last time they struggled running was against an Alabama front seven that was very similarly built to what Texas A&M looked like they had. And they did a great job up front. You can point to the 334 passing yards, I think, that Jackson Dart had. You can point to the 200 plus that Trey Harris had through the air. But all of that happens because the offensive line is able to block. This is the number one sack defense in the conference. They had 33 sacks on the year, and Ole Miss only gave up one on Saturday. Also going up against the number two rush defense in the conference and ran for 4 yards a carry, over 120 yards, I think, on the ground for Ole Miss. So I give that offensive line a lot of credit. But you're right, this is a very good team. I think their confidence is continuing to build, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in Oxford. You know, I mean, excuse me, in Athens against Georgia. The one thing that Georgia looks like they're vulnerable to is the perimeter run game, and Ole Miss has a lot of really fast ball carriers. Whether you're talking about Judkins or Bentley, or you're talking about some of the jet sweep stuff, it'll be interesting to see if that speed is able to get to the edge and if they can have some success running some outside like Auburn did earlier in the year.
And Chris, that's a great segue in the Week 11 slate. And sticking with that game, and I want to pose a question to you because I think Ole Miss, I don't know if it's a bold take. I think they're a little bit better of a team than Tennessee right now. What's the more dangerous game for Georgia in your mind? That Ole Miss game? It's a night game in Athens, so that helps out a lot. Or the road trip on Rocky Top? What's a more difficult game for them?
You know, I lean towards saying Tennessee is the more dangerous road game, only because the Vols seem like a totally different team in Neyland than they do when they're on the road. I also believe that Tennessee has upgraded their level of physicality on the lines of scrimmage, something that Georgia exposed last year. But until I see it, I'm probably a little skeptical as well. Like I told you before, I think Georgia wins the rest of their ball games. But in terms of the most challenging game, I lean towards what that crowd can create in Knoxville, and what will be a tremendous home field advantage, and obviously the most hostile environment that Carson Beck will have started in his career. So let's see. He hasn't really been shaken at all this year. He was a little bit slow starting in the first half against Missouri, got things together, but let's see how he does when he goes to Neyland and has to, face that defense that can certainly bring a lot of pressure, but that 105,000 plus that can make it a raucous environment there as well.
Now, Chris, Tennessee, Missouri, what's funny about this game, over the summer, admittedly, right, you're looking at schedules, we're trying to kind of get ahead of things, and let me pick an upset here, upset there. Like, it's college football. Craziness happens. I had Missouri beating Tennessee over the summer. I did not know Missouri was going to be a top 15 team when it happened, though. And that's more than likely going to be the case when the AP poll drops yet again. And now we know Mizzou is a really, really good football team. Big one for Tennessee, obviously. Big one for Mizzou, too, though. The SEC East race, slim hopes, but it's still alive. What are you looking for in this one? I mean, again, a 3:30 kickoff. I think this could be the most fun game of the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and it's in Como, right?
It is in Como, yes.
Yeah,
Brady Cook and Joe Milton going at it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Credit the Missouri fans; they've created a nice little home field environment there at Faurot Field. So, I know maybe one of the difficult things to do is bouncing back from a disappointing loss. It's also a very physical game when you go up against Georgia, kind of a similar spot to what Florida just was in, and their ball game against Arkansas after losing to Georgia last week. But it'll be interesting to see if they can rebound. Tennessee seems to have figured things out offensively. We know they want to run the ball. I think that Joe Milton's stat line is 18 of 21 or whatever it was. Like, last two ball games, I think he's completed over 80% of his passes. He's not being asked to throw an awful lot. So I think it's a perfect formula for them having success. But, I do think that it comes down. If I were Missouri, I'm trying to do everything I can to force Joe Milton to beat me and see if they can continue to consistently throw and catch the ball, something they didn't really do very well early in the season.
Now, Chris, this has got to be one of your favorite weeks of the year, Florida and LSU, which I'm sure means you and your co-host, Jacob Hester. All I want to know is what's the bet? What you guys got on the line this week for the game?
Well, my bigger bet is with Peter Burns. I mean, PB is.
That's right. You guys had the College World Series bet. You had to rock.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to 4 straight football bets that I've lost, so I think we're trying to figure that out this week. But it is.
Gators are killing you, man. They're just killing you.
Yeah, and that's something that Coach Napier said to me at media days. First thing he said, we got to keep you out of the costumes this year. So hopefully Florida can get back on track. Anxious to see what Jaden Daniels' status is after that concussion protocol at the end of the Alabama game. But yeah, the bet will be on again. I don't. People say, "Well, are you going to take?" I'm not taking points. You don't take points with your alma mater. I take pride in supporting my Gators, and whether they go in there and win or whether they go in there and lose, that's secondary to support the alma mater off camera.
Going to be fun. 7:30 kick Eastern time in Death Valley. That's what Florida gets rewarded with, that game on SEC Network. South Carolina Vandy, Chris, anytime you've beaten an opponent, I think it's South Carolina's going to go for their 15th in a row. Again, you were a player. What type of mental advantage does that give you? Does that matter a ton for the game that's being played like that year, right? Because, I mean, these players, they weren't around years ago when the streak started. But like you guys knew, right, when you were playing Kentucky or like a team you beat every year, like I'm sure it had to give you a mental edge. And I feel like that's the way with the Gamecocks, because no matter how good, bad, terrible, whatever South Carolina has been or Vandy, the Gamecocks just find a way to beat Vandy. And like, we're talking some really bad South Carolina teams and some really good James Franklin Vandy teams that somehow, some way, Carolina has not lost to the Commodores. And
I'm probably not the best to be able to ask about this because we showed up thinking we were going to beat everybody, so it really wasn't anything special. But we were in the beginning portions of that 31, 32 year streak over Kentucky. We beat Vandy a ton of years in a row. I think it's more the weight of it on the team that's on the losing side of that streak, and having to hear about it. The media, like you said, the kids don't know anything about it till the media brings it up and asks questions about it. So, it doesn't have anything. What's happened in previous years doesn't matter as much, other than the fact that I do think there's some pressure on the team that's on the losing end of that to try to have to break a streak that they didn't have anything largely to do with in previous years.
Chris Doering of SEC Network. Chris, one last thing. I'll throw you a curveball to end this, because a lot of the chatter, I just feel like it's a daily thing with this Michigan stuff and the scandal. And should Michigan be allowed to go to the college ball playoff with all this stuff going on? Do you think that should matter this year?
It's a really hard situation because I do think it deserves to have the due diligence done. The NCAA doesn't do anything swiftly, but, could you imagine suspending Michigan and not allowing them to be a part of the college football playoffs, and you find out later on that they really didn't have anything to do with it and it wasn't as big as it was made out to be? That would be a shame to those kids on that Michigan team, a shame to the program in general. This is probably their best chance to win a national championship in a long time. But on the flip side, what if they do find out that they were, guilty of all these things? Sure, you can say, yeah, we took the championship away, or we took their Big Ten title away, or we vacated their wins on the field. That's great. But what about the team that was at that 5th spot that would have deserved to get in to compete in a college football playoff, that's not going to have that opportunity? So that's what I feel for the kids on both sides. The Michigan players, I have to believe they didn't know anything about this. And so it's just a bad situation all around. I don't know what the solution is, but it certainly doesn't seem to me like it's going to get wrapped up in the next 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the regular season.
Chris Doering, again, joins us every single Monday. And Chris, I'm pulling for you this week. You in particular, by the way, as someone that had to don the Florida Gators cap losing the bet. I don't want to see you in LSU. I'd like to see you win one of these. So I'm pulling for you.
I appreciate it, man. 0 for my last 5 against PB. So we'll see if we can't break this streak, man.
We do.
Hey, yeah, that's what you say, right? At the casino, it's been 7 blacks in a row. It's got to be red soon, right? So we'll see.
At some point. At some point. Chris, appreciate you doing this, man. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, that was Chris Doering, SEC Network. Always a fun conversation with Chris, and appreciate him taking the time. And we'll see whether he or Peter Burns, who's going to have to rock the opponent's gear next week after the results of LSU Florida on Saturday. That's going to be a fun one. 7:30 kick in Death Valley in Baton Rouge. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, I'll talk all things South Carolina's 38-28 victory over Jacksonville State. All takeaways from everything that took place on and off the field. We'll get into all that and more, guys, on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Michael Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Monday, November the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in to the Daily Crow here on this Monday. Like I mentioned, guys, we'll be live all week long, noon to 2, Monday through Friday. Normal schedule this week. And I thank you all ahead of time for tuning in. Let me get into this comment really quickly. Cocky Twan asked this question. I was asked by some people via DM a couple of times, like what happened with Ace Sanders. There was a screenshot posted. So it's silly, it's nonsense, but I'm going to go ahead and get it out there because I have a great relationship with Ace Sanders. We actually had him on the show a couple years ago. Very simply, Ace Sanders put up a tweet saying that he did not hear about the 2010 to 13 or the celebration, if you will, on Saturday of the Gamecocks' best teams. We all know Ace Sanders was a part of those. I quote tweet that, say, Ace Sanders didn't know about this. He didn't get the invite. What's going on? Ace then replied to me saying that, hey, let's not escalate it, what have you. So Ace and I DM'd back and forth. I said, hey, man, sorry. I just went off of what you said. Thought you didn't get invited. He said it was all good, man. Simple misunderstanding. We both deleted our tweets. End of discussion. So I know people want to take every little thing and screenshot it and make it way bigger than it is, but I'm here to tell you, Cocky Twan, everyone else, there's really nothing. And Ace Sanders and I have a great relationship. Again, we talked via DM after that happened, and that's why Ace actually deleted his tweet because he understood that it was being screenshotted and taken for something that it absolutely wasn't. So wanted to go ahead, get that out of the way. It's funny how the off-field stuff, it's just as notable, if sometimes not even more notable, in the stuff that happens on the field. And I guess that happens when you go 3-6 or you have a 3-6 football team to discuss. So again, Cocky Twan, fair question. And again, wanted to get that out there, but really it was something where it was a mountain made out of a molehill, just a simple misunderstanding. And I wanted to make sure that he got his invite to that ceremony because some of my best memories of Ace Sanders, or some of my best memories of that era of Gamecocks football, they include Ace Sanders. So if he didn't get his invite, that would have been wrong. But again, misunderstanding, we're all good. Ace and I have a great relationship. And yeah, glad we're able to have that conversation behind closed doors. Either way, guys, that segues us into, well, what took place over the weekend. Gamecocks and Gamecocks. South Carolina finally snapped their losing streak, taking down Jacksonville State by a final score of 38-28. And for those of you who tuned in to the post-game call-in show on Saturday, whether it was live or whether you went back and watched it later or you listened to the podcast version, you know that yours truly, I was pretty dejected. I was pretty out of sorts. It was a win that felt like a loss. And I want to preface this conversation. I want to preface all of what I'm about to say, all of my takeaways from this 10-point victory with this. There is good, believe it or not, there's good that came from Saturday. There's bad, and there's ugly. And just because you're someone who recognizes or is willing to recognize the bad and the ugly along with the good, just because you're willing to do that does not mean that you live a miserable existence or you're a miserable human being or that you need to go find some joy. And that's where I have to start this, guys. I don't want to. I want to start and keep everything on the field, right? What happened in the ball game. But as is seeming to be weekly tradition, a Shane Beamer press conference clip goes viral. And I understand, guys, many of you will comment and say, oh, it's just Shane Beamer. Like, this is happening. Why is this happening? Everybody's just picking on Shane Beamer for no reason. And in some of these cases, I don't disagree with you. Some of these cases, like the bigger problem is you only beat Jacksonville State by 10 points. The bigger problem is it took a pick six to save the day and avoid what would have been nothing short of pure disaster for this South Carolina football program. That's the bigger issue. That's the bigger talking point. That is the reason, right? The losing. It's the reason that a lot of these smaller things are getting blown up and being made into bigger things. But speaking on Shane Beamer's rant after the game, and like what makes this so fascinating to me, guys, is that it was something that was totally unprompted. It was literally the opening statement from Shane Beamer. There was no question asked. I highly doubt Coach Beamer went on social media to see what everybody was saying from the time the game ended to the time he got into the press conference room, right? So I hadn't seen anything. And so in the opening statement, and in case you missed this, Shane Beamer had this to say. So he's talking about we're celebrating this 10-point win. Our guys are dancing around in the locker room. They should be celebrating. And then he said this. This is the direct quote. Quote, there are going to be people that live a miserable existence that are going to say, why are you celebrating a 10-point win over Jacksonville State? Well, that's why you're not on a team. That's why you're not in a locker room. And I get what Shane Beamer's saying there. Listen, winning is hard. And I've said it many times to you guys. When South Carolina wins, we're gonna critique. We're going to be critical. We're going to give analysis. That's what we do. Although many of you don't want to hear it. I get that. A lot of you, some of you, not a lot of you, some of you come to a Gamecocks page and a Gamecocks entity and you expect a Gamecocks slant and a Gamecock bias. And that's not what we do here. We call it as is. I call it as I see it. And I am loved and hated for that very reason. So I'm going to do the same right here. I get what Shane Beamer's saying. Celebrate the wins, man. They're hard to come by. Teams lost 4 in a row. Been over a month since you won a game. Nobody's saying your team should not be happy in victory. Nobody's saying that. But to unprompted come out and say, if you're questioning us dancing around like we just won the SEC championship after beating a first-year FBS team by 10, well, you live a miserable existence. I just, guys, I don't understand. Like, I genuinely, I don't understand. I don't understand why Shane Beamer has to live this, like, why he has to have this boulder-sized chip on his shoulder towards his own fan base. Towards his own fan base. The people who spend money, who donate, right? Fans are being asked to do more than they ever have now. They're spending money on everything to get to the games, watch the games, go to the games. Now we need more for NIL, right? I'm being told there's Garnet Trust ads being run every 30 seconds in the stadium on the scoreboard. Give more, give more, give more. And Shane Beamer wants to tell people, if you have an opinion on how that game was played, if you have an opinion on the fact that we almost lost to an FBS team, you live a miserable existence and you need to find some joy. That was Shane Beamer's version of STFU. That's what that was. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it, guys. And I don't want to spend this entire show talking on it, but Shane Beamer missed the mark. He missed the mark yet again. Is it a huge deal in the grand scheme of things? Not necessarily, guys, but let me put it to you this way, okay? Let me put it to you this way. This goes in every walk of life. You can love this, you can hate this, but this is the truth. Let's say I'm running a business, which I am. Let's say I'm running a sales organization, and I've got a salesman that's elite. He's top tier. He's the best in the company, but he's a douchebag. Well, he can get away with it because he's elite. He's exceptional, right? We see it all across all walks of life. Exceptional people get away with things. They get away with, they don't have to have the greatest personality, right? You would prefer they do, but they don't have to. Top performers, they can get away with things that those who are not top performers can't get away with. So you've got this other guy. He's a mid-tier salesman, right? He's okay. He's not great. He's just right in the middle, but he's got a great personality. Everybody loves working with him, man. He's a team player. He's, somebody everybody gets along with. That guy's going to last. He's a clubhouse guy. That's what we call a clubhouse guy. He's a clubhouse guy. He's not going to be a future all-star, right? He's okay. He's solid, but he's not great, but he's a clubhouse guy. He keeps camaraderie high, keeps the clubhouse together. That guy can't have the attitude that a top performer has if he wants to go off and be a douchebag and be standoffish. And so I bring that back to this conversation, guys. Shane Beamer, you have not earned the right to take shots at people left and right. What have you done? Outside of Tennessee and Clemson, outside of catching fire for 2 weeks, what have you done to throw this shade at people? And to do it unprompted. I mean, I for the life of me can't understand it. I guess if you want to surround yourself in an echo chamber and hear nothing but positivity and find some joy in how great you are, even though you suck, then that's on you. But that's not real life. That's not the reality. It's crazy. And to just take an unprompted shot at folks. And you can miss me with the, like, if you, listen, I get it. This is college athletics. There are people that look at Shane Beamer, Brian Kelly, Nick Saban. They look at their head coaches as more than mortal. They are gods in their eyes. More than mortal. I understand that. So you're never in a million years going to hear these college fans, some of these people say even one slightly controversial word. And guys, I'm still behind Shane Beamer. I still think Shane Beamer can be the guy. But bro, it is year 3. You got to start getting this press conference thing figured out. You got to start taking a deep breath. And you know what? If this team was, even if they were 6-3, maybe that flies. Hey, don't be miserable. We just punched our ticket to bowl eligibility. Ironically enough, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, was the 1-year anniversary of the Find Some Joy comment after the Vandy game. In that scenario, hey, you're bowl eligible. Find some joy. But this team is 3-6. You don't want people to be critical, have an opinion, and they live a miserable existence if they do so? I just don't get it. I don't get why he's got that chip on his shoulder, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. And to do it unprompted, there's something in there deep, man. Like there's some disdain, there's some anger, there's some resentment. Maybe it's at me. Maybe it's at people on social media. Maybe it's at Paul Feinbaum. Maybe it's some of these national guys out there that have been really critical of him. I don't know. But I can tell you this, operating out of a place of gratitude and grace and perspective and empathy, controlling what you can control, not caring so much what everyone thinks about you, that's a lot better way to operate, man, than coming out in a post-game press conference when you should have lost. You should have lost. You should have lost that football game. You deserve to lose. You had to win the turnover margin 4-0 to beat Jacksonville State, all due respect to Rich Rod's team. And you're coming out here wanting people to throw you a parade, and you're beating your chest and saying that you're a miserable existence human being if you're not celebrating us. How dare you say anything negative about that win? Give me a break. You can spew that bullshit to somebody else who wants to hear it, man. Just absurd, man. Just absurd. You know what? You go win some games. Go win 10 games next year. You can be the biggest cocksucker you want to be. And I'm not calling Shane Beamer that, but I'm saying you can say whatever you want, but like, have a feel, man. People are upset. They're frustrated. Great win, but Come on, man. Come on. Have a feel. Top performers, those who are exceptional, get away with things. You got to earn that, though. And I don't get taking shots at the people who give everything they have to the program, who have just been there for years and years and have sat through 0-11 and 1-10. I just don't get it. I do not get it. I don't get it. So it's very, very similar to the Dabo situation at Clemson. I will say that. Dabo Swinney, hey, when they were winning national titles, nobody gave a damn what Dabo said. It was just like, ha, funny. Now that they've started losing, isn't it funny how that doesn't really fly anymore? So that's a great example right there. Anyways, I hate that I spent that much time talking about that, but it's a top storyline. It's a top storyline. It's a top thing to talk about. It is what it is. It just, and it's funny. I had somebody reply after the game when I post the clip. Nobody cares about this but you. Well, 300,000 views later on social media. I think a few people care out there. Anyways, guys, the rest of the ball game. There was a ball game played, by the way. Spencer Rattler continues to be brilliant at home, guys. I don't know what's in the water at Williams-Brice Stadium, but 27-38, 399, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick in that ball game. Fantastic. I mean, again, South Carolina, it feels like at times they do everything they can to lose a football game, and he and Xavier Legette say, no, I will not allow it. Mario Anderson, I thought, ran the ball really well. Tough, physical, 24, just week in, week out basis. God gives his guts to Gamecocks football. I thought Spencer Rattler, as good as he was, I don't think he was quite as sharp as he's been at home, though. Some underthrown balls, that ball to Nick Harbor. I think some passes he got away with, but I mean, really, we're nitpicking there. Xavier Legette, 9 for 217, 2 touchdowns, guys. He was actually our MVP of the game. He was brilliant in that football game. Seeing him return to form, I think, is a really, really big deal and a positive for South Carolina. So getting Xavier Legette back going, you're going to need him, need Rattler, need Mario Anderson in these last 3 ball games to have a shot to win out. Guys, the offensive line just is what it is. It just, at this point, unfortunately, here's the thing. I think over the summer, we knew the offensive line was an issue, right? We knew the offensive line was going to give South Carolina problems, okay? I thought they would improve as the season went on because, and nobody saw the injuries coming. I thought they were going to improve because they would be healthy and they'd have some continuity. Okay, guys are getting better. They're progressing. And you just unfortunately don't have that. It's a shame. It's a shame because the injury bug has been so bad. And guys, we've talked about before, they've got to take a step back this offseason and look at, what has gone wrong when it comes to, when it comes to strength and conditioning and figuring things out. But the offensive line just is what it is because you're not going to get that much healthier, right? It's already confirmed Trey Jones is out for this weekend against Vanderbilt. I mean, you're not going to get that much healthier. Big True Babalade, Trovon, both those guys continue to come along, but you just are what you are. You just are what you are, which is not very good. And South Carolina, can you get away with that against a Vanderbilt? We shall see. You barely got away with it against JSU, although you did. But, how do you hold up in the rest of these games? Kentucky, Clemson, they're going to present challenges. But unfortunately, I don't see the offensive line taking major steps forward. I don't see them taking major steps forward this season because, guys, we are literally 9 games in, and you just are what you are this season. Defensively, guys, we're talking good, bad, and ugly. I would say the ugly is the defense. Poor tackling, blown assignments, missed tackles. It was just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. I don't know. It's just so brutal to watch. I don't think the talent is there. South Carolina has a loft problem across the board. What is loft, you may ask? Loft stands for lack of effing talent. That's their problem. They got a loft problem. So there's not enough talent on this football team, but it feels like there's more talent on the defensive side than what is being shown. And what kills me is this, right? And is this going to solve all the issues? Not necessarily. And I got no issue with Clayton White finishing out this season. But, guys, Southern Cal just fired Alex Grinch. Heck, Arkansas fired Dan Enos. Why can't Shane Beamer do that? Why can't South Carolina do the same? Why can't they make a move? What's stopping them? Truly, what's stopping them? I just, because whatever's happening, whatever's being implemented, it's bad. I mean, the defense is just bad across the board. I posed the question on social media, guys, what did we learn from this game? I learned Jacksonville State is a legitimate football team, by the way. They are, we talked about their Georgia State, of last year, kind of. They're very similar. I think that stands. Heck, I picked 38-27, 38-28 is the final, right? So, I gave them all the credit in the world, and it wasn't just because I thought South Carolina was reeling. It's because JSU is a really, really good team, and they are. JSU is a good team. There are teams in the SEC that I think Jacksonville State would beat. I think on a neutral field, hey, even if it's in Nashville, there's a good chance JSU beats Vanderbilt. There's a good chance they go toe-to-toe with Mississippi State. JSU's solid, right? They got a great coach in Rich Rod. Outside of that, though, I don't think we learned anything truly new about South Carolina. The best thing you can say about this game, guys, a win is a win is a win, and you didn't lose. Thank God you didn't lose. That's it. I mentioned it in the post game on Saturday, and I am so ready to move off this game because I don't have a lot of joy, guys. I don't have a lot of joy from watching that game. There's just not a lot of positive to draw. Maybe there's other shows out there that are going to tell you that South Carolina's turned a corner because they escaped near disaster against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Maybe there's shows out there. I think it would sound really silly and foolish to be pumping that type of blind, silly optimism on these airwaves. Now, maybe listen, momentum's a fickle mistress. We talked about it, right? The 4-game stretch in November, it couldn't have set up any better because first step was break your losing streak. You did that. You got to win. No matter how ugly it is, you got to win. Now you take a step up. An SEC opponent comes in Vanderbilt. Okay? You got to get going a little bit more. Then you build a little bit more momentum. And we've seen South Carolina under Shane Beamer. They get some momentum, all bets are off, right? They get some momentum, all bets are off. So you take that next step. Here comes Kentucky, right? Then all bets are off against them and the Clemson Tigers to close it out. So the best thing you can say about this game, guys, a win is a win is a win, and there were no significant injuries that I am aware of. I think, Trey Jones continues to be out. Trey Knox might miss another week. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything significant. Shane Beamer, of course, speaking on his teleconference last night, he updated everyone. Juice Wells, guys, I think it's a smokescreen. I don't think Juice Wells is going to see the field again ever at South Carolina. I don't think he's going to see the field this season. And outside of that, again, a win is a win is a win. A win's a win's a win. And so that should, I guess, bring us some joy. And there's a lot more joy in winning and losing. And so I will drop it. I will let it go. Gamecocks got a W. Bowl eligibility is still in the sights. And we'll see how and if South Carolina is able to build off of a 10-point win over the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Guys, that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll play a game I like to call Monday Morning Quarterback, reacting to everything that took place in Week 10. All that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Monday, November the 6th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Let me say this, by the way, guys, because I got really emotional in that last segment. Or, not even emotional, but just passionate in that last segment. I want to reiterate, I still think Shane Beamer can be and is the guy for South Carolina football. But when something needs to be said, it just simply put needs to be said, right? So That's it. It's done. It's whatever. It is what it is. It's critical analysis and opinions, and that's what we do here. And that's what I love to do. So, anyways, appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Gamecocks women getting tipped off right now in Paris. They are taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Wish them best of luck, guys. We will talk some college basketball, by the way, in a little bit. Admittedly, guys, it's really, really tough to cram it in, getting all the basketball stuff. We're in the heat of football season, and then we have basketball. But I promise you, we're going to touch on basketball. We're not just going to completely ignore the basketball side of things. And I am excited for tip-off and excited for basketball season. Always a really, really fun time watching the Gamecocks, watching SEC basketball. And everybody is in action today. So again, guys, thank you all so much. And with that being said, just checking in on some things really quickly. South Carolina, Kentucky, by the way, Gamecocks have gotten a night game for Carolina, Kentucky. And it is a Christmas miracle, man. It is a Christmas miracle. Truly. South Carolina, UK, a 7:30 kickoff on the SEC network. And all of a sudden, guys, the path is being cleared. The path is being cleared, right? Maybe, just maybe, you get to the Clemson game with 5 wins under your belt. That is the hope. That is the dream. We'll see if they can do it. Guys, that being said, like I mentioned, Monday morning quarterback reacting to everything that took place in the SEC in Week 10. Let's start with the big one. Normally, I go down the list of when the games were played, but man, I'm not sure that I've had more fun this season watching a college football game than I did watching Alabama and LSU. Crimson Tide get the big 42-28 victory. Isn't it crazy, guys, how, when you think Bama, LSU, guys, it was only a decade ago that we were talking about like 9-6 games and these low-scoring slugfests and, 2 physical teams grinding each other out, playing this elite level of defense. And now we've got these crazy shootouts, these wildly entertaining shootouts, and a pair of quarterbacks in Jalen Milroe and Jaden Daniels that were nothing short of fantastic. The only shame of this game, guys, it's unfortunate that Jaden Daniels could not finish the football game. And I'll start there with this game because Dallas Turner had the big hit, of course, on Jaden Daniels. I know my guy Blake Raffine over at AYS, he was fuming at the hit, saying that, the SEC should do this, that he should have gotten ejected, whatever. You go back and watch it. And guys, I get it, right? If you're on the LSU side and it knocks your quarterback out, I understand how you're upset. I get that. I really do. I get that. But taking all taking the emotion out of it, taking the phantom out, and you just look at that play. In my opinion, that was just a good old hard-nosed football play. That's all that was. That was a hard-nosed football play, okay? And I know it took Jaden Daniels out, but it wasn't targeting. Was it roughing the passer? Based off today's rules, yes. As Chris Doering said in our previous segment, hey, back in the 90s, you would reward that as a great hit. And I know player safety is a top priority. But I don't think that's targeting. Dude, he hit him in the shoulder. Now, guys like Dallas Turner, they play with such a violence in the game that you're going to look at that and say, well, that was dirty. That was a dirty hit. I don't think it was, guys. I think that was a good, hard-nosed football play by a hard-nosed football player. And unfortunately, Jaden Daniels had to eat it. Jaden Daniels had to take it. So, I don't think that's why LSU lost the football game. I think Alabama, here's the thing. Alabama's not perfect on defense, and LSU has got a great offense. But at some point, when you are as porous as LSU is defensively, and it's crazy how bad they are. It's crazy how bad LSU is defensively with all that talent they have, guys like Harold Perkins and Mason Smith and Wingo and these other guys. I mean, it's crazy how bad they are. But when you got that leaky of a defense, guys, and you're going up against a team like Alabama, who I think the stunning thing was the fact they were able to throw up 42. The stunning thing was Bama went shot for shot, score for score with what LSU did. That's what was so wildly impressive. Watching Jalen Milroe operate in that scheme and that system, they finally just let Jalen Milroe run around. Like, I don't know if it's good enough to win them a national championship. I have no idea. I don't know if it's good enough to win the SEC. But Jalen Milroe's a guy, you got to let him go back there and just play backyard football. And guys, 20 carries for Jalen Milroe. 20 for 155, 4 rushing touchdowns. And I can say the same for Jaden Daniels also. This is one of the things that made the game so fun. But watching those two guys, it's crazy how at every single position, there's elite level talent. At every position, there's an NFL guy, more than likely. And, I mean, you're talking about top-tier speed. Like, these teams have elite speed. And Jaden Daniels and Jalen Milroe made everyone else on the field look slow. Everybody else. I mean, it was electric. I mean, it was electric to watch. But Bama with more punches, and I think the characteristic trait you see in a great championship team, guys, it's not about can you run the football. It's about can you run the football when you have to and when you want to. And what Bama did in that fourth quarter, that's what championship teams do. They put their foot on your throat. They suffocate you. They run it down your throat. And they close out a football game. And so, I mean, listen, tip your cap to Alabama. I had LSU in this one. I picked LSU to win the SEC West in the preseason. And it looked like I was going to be right a couple weeks ago. But this Bama team, the growth and the progression since that USF game, I'll eat crow, man. I was totally wrong. I was totally wrong on the Crimson Tide. Nick Saban has done a masterful job, I think. The coaching job he's done, it's been masterful. And again, I don't know that Bama's going to beat Georgia in the SEC title or go to the playoff or what have you, but they have overcome a lot of adversity, a lot of doubters, and they've overcome a lot of question marks, specifically at the quarterback position. And you can't say enough good things about Jalen Milroe and what he did for Bama. A complete team win in that football game. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised, guys. Alabama, yet again, controls the SEC West. Now, going through the rest of the slate, guys, Ole Miss takes down Texas A&M. Final score 38-35 in this one. Was this the last straw for Jimbo Fisher? Was this the last straw? The fourth loss on the season for Jimbo and the Texas A&M Aggies. Give credit, by the way, to Ole Miss. They're just a team, guys. You know, Ole Miss, I don't know that they're really a national brand or, you know, they're going to move the needle like talking about LSU and Bama, whatever. But they just keep on keeping on, man. Like, they just handle their business. They handle their business. Jackson Dart was elite. 24-33, 387, 2 touchdowns. You know, Ole Miss, their physicality up front against one of the best front sevens in the SEC, Quinshon Judkins, goes 23 for 102, 4.4 yards per carry. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in the football game. Ole Miss just moving bodies around. And, you know, you can justify it with that. Look how good Ole Miss is. Those in College Station don't want to hear it, man. They don't want to hear it. And I don't blame them. Again, I don't blame them. There's too much talent, and Jimbo's getting paid too much money for these type of results. So, I mean, it's jubilation, it's celebration on the Ole Miss side. The question marks, the seat continues to heat up. The question marks continue to flood this program. And, I mean, guys, I think it should be happening. I think it should happen. I think it should be done. I think Jimbo Fisher should be done at Texas A&M. And, guys, you can balk at the money all you want, but Texas A&M, they've got real coin. They've got real cash. I don't think money's going to stop them from making that decision if they want to do so. Tennessee takes down UConn 59-3. We will not spend a lot of time on this game, guys. Tennessee just dismantling their opponent. The Vols were off and running, guys. They were up 35-3 at halftime. I think the big headline in this one, Nico got in the football game, 5 for 9 for 86 yards. A touchdown. Joe Milton, very efficient in the game, 11 for 14, 254. The ground game was effective with Jalen Wright, 8 for 113, a touchdown. A very ho-hum performance for Tennessee as they keep this thing rolling, set the stage for a big matchup this weekend. to Gainesville, guys. This is a wildly entertaining game. Wildly entertaining game. And I got to think Florida's probably going to be retiring the black jerseys. I don't think you're going to see those come out. But Arkansas, I mean, how about the Arkansas Razorbacks, man? A team that was just down and out, demoralized, gutsy win in the swamp, man. Going to overtime, had to have it. And what do you know? I mean, guys, what do you know? You remove a deficient coordinator, and good things happen. It's like clockwork. It's like clockwork. You take out the weak link, the thing holding you down. All of a sudden, Arkansas's offense is running like a well-oiled machine. And on the Florida side, it's crazy how Florida football is like this. Just an up and down roller coaster. You never know what you're going to get from Billy Napier's team. The prosperity is like their biggest enemy. It truly is. Prosperity is the greatest enemy of the Florida Gators because every time they start to get something rolling, every time they start to build a little bit of momentum, they fall flat on their faces. So, Billy Napier now, you look at the rest of the schedule, guys, you got what? LSU, I think it's Missouri and Florida State. Is that right? I think those are the three games. I know LSU and Florida State. There's one. I think it is Mizzou, the other one. Either way, it is really, really, really tough sledding for Florida now to get to a bowl game. And they finished 5-7, and Billy Napier's seat going into year 3 is going to be very, very warm. I think that's safe to say. Guys, to Athens, Georgia and Missouri. Speaking of the Tigers, guys, this is a great football game. I mean, really, truly, if Missouri hasn't earned your respect by now, I don't know what to tell you. They're a good, hard-nosed football team. You know, they may not recruit to the level of some other schools out there. They may not have the flashy recruiting rankings, but it's kind of like Mark Stoops at Kentucky, guys. They get their guys in there. They've built a Missouri style of football. They play a certain way. And I think what's so impressive, in no way are they intimidated by Georgia. In no way are they intimidated. They're not. They're not intimidated in the slightest, right? The physicality, I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Georgia. I was thoroughly impressed, by the way, with Georgia, too. They're doing all this without Brock Bowers. Lad McConkey stepping up, guys, 7 for 95, 13.6 yards per catch. Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett. The stars were out at the receiver position, guys. Theo Weiss Jr. was electric from Mizzou. Luther Burden III, he was great. Carson Beck, another player, guys. If you got it, my good friend Brad Crawford pointed this out, too, on social media. The best ticket maybe right now on a Heisman Trophy player, if you're talking about a sleeper, the best ticket available, or maybe that was available weeks ago, was Carson Beck. Because, I mean, dude, I don't have all of his numbers in front of me, but their schedule stiffens up, right? They got Ole Miss coming up. They got Tennessee and Knoxville. They're going to have the SEC championship. Carson Beck is going to have an opportunity to get those Heisman moments, right? That's what you need. You need a Heisman moment. He's going to have it, dude. You look at Carson Beck's numbers. I mean, guys, this dude has been elite. Hasn't been good. He's been elite. And if you're the best player, or you're the quarterback at least, on the number 1 team in the country, guess what? Your odds of winning the Heisman, they're pretty damn good. They're pretty damn good. So I love Carson Beck right now as a sleeper in the Heisman race. And Georgia, again, guys, just reinforcing they're the best team in college football. I feel confident in saying that. You know, Georgia's still the creme de la creme. They're still the team to beat. And the Dogs proved that yet again. But again, I left that game obviously impressed with Georgia, but Missouri too, man. They are for real. They're legit. They were a lot of fun to watch. Eli Drinkwitz has done a fantastic job with that group this season. Auburn-Vandy, guys. Auburn takes down the Vanderbilt Commodores by a final score 31-15. The most notable thing about this game was the fact that I went on a limb. I picked Vandy to win the football game, and they did not, which is fine. Let me listen. I shot my shot over the summer. I was going to stick with that pick. You know, Vandy, just not a good team. They're just not good. This game was over before it even got started. 17-7 Auburn early. They outscore the Commodores 14-8 in the third quarter. You know, I maybe some signs of life from Vanderbilt. We'll get into Vandy stuff with South Carolina, them coming to town this weekend later in the week. But, just a really dominating performance by Auburn. Hunter, the running back, 19 for 183, 2 touchdowns, 9.6 yards per carry. Peyton Thorne got in on the rushing attack as well. He was very efficient, 17 to 27, 7.2 per attempt, 194. 2 TDs, had 1 pick. Ken Seals at the quarterback position. Vandy don't even know who their quarterback is. They're playing this Taylor kid. They're playing Seals. Seals went 16 to 29, 160, a touchdown and a pick, and they could get nothing going on the ground. Alexander, their leading rusher, 9 for 40. So, it's a Vandy team, guys, that, again, Clark Lee's biggest challenge is just keeping this team bought in at this point because they don't have a lot to play for. You're not very good, and they've got some pieces, but a good win for Auburn. A win they should have gotten. And again, I just wanted to stick to my guns. I wanted to stick to my guns with the pick, the upset pick I had for the summer, but I knew it was probably pretty unlikely. So it is what it is. And finally, guys, Kentucky beats Mississippi State 24-3, the final. Of course, this is a state team, guys, without Will Rogers, without Woody Marks, really depleted, but, there's no such thing as a bad road win in the SEC, guys. Ray Davis continues to be really good, 21 for 80 yards. You look at the passing game, Devin Leary at 13 of 22, 156, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So, again, it was kind of a workman-like performance by Kentucky. They get the win. It's a 3-touchdown win. I loved them to cover the spread in this one. I knew Mark Stoops, his record, his history in Starkville at Davis Wade, but, it's a bad Mississippi State team, guys, especially without Rogers, without Woody Marks. So, Kentucky, they get a much-needed win. They get a big road win. Again, there's no such thing as a bad road win in the SEC, and Kentucky got that, and they keep things rolling and build some momentum in the month of November as well. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation on. We'll talk some basketball. Here on this Monday as things get rolling and teams get on the hardwood beginning today. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Monday, November the 6th, 2023. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Really excited for the start of basketball season. It's officially back. Guys, we'll get into that, and then we'll have a short, condensed daily mailbag. I know, obviously, Gamecocks women's basketball is playing right now, and this isn't going to be like a big official basketball preview like years past, where we dive into, the true nitty-gritty. But I did want to mention it. So this is going to serve as our Gamecocks men's basketball preview. Just kind of hitting some highlights. Obviously, guys, many of you, and I'll say this too, many of you have asked me the question, Chris, how much are you going to talk about basketball? How much are you going to talk about basketball? Like, is it going to be a priority? And guys, I learned this last year, especially navigating the Gamecocks basketball season last year. And I'll say this moving forward. We are very structured throughout the football season to a degree because there's so much content that you got to have some structure. There's got to be a method of the madness, if you will. In regards to basketball, it's a shame it starts during football season. It is. It's a shame that it does. So we're not going to just completely ignore it, if you will. But my commitment is to the fact that each and every single day, we're going to talk about the top storylines, the things people care about, and the things that are moving the needle. That's what I'm going to do as a content creator. So I want to go ahead and throw that out there. So you guys tune in every day. You want to hear more basketball? You can comment that. Let me know. Give me that feedback. But that's how we're going to roll. That's how we're going to operate. With that being said, guys, year 2 of the Lamont Paris era is officially set to get underway tonight. Gamecocks take on USC Upstate. South Carolina is a 13-point favorite in this game. And it begs the question, guys, the bigger picture. What are the expectations? What are realistic expectations in year 2 of Lamont Paris? You look at last season, year 1, which I really label, guys, almost as a year 0, but 11-21, 4-14 in the conference, guys. The Gamecocks ranked number 221 in the KenPom rankings, which is like the big deal rankings in college basketball. Simply put, guys, it was a disaster, right? I mean, it was, nobody wanted to talk about basketball. Nobody wanted to mention men's basketball. It was just sort of an eyesore. It was just kind of that thing where, like, oh yeah, well, they're there. You know what I mean? They're there. And so you look at the second year Lamont Paris. Who did you lose, right? You're going to have to replace guys. Of course, the big one is G.G. Jackson. You lost Hayden Brown, Chico Carter Jr. You lost some of the bench guys like Daniel Hankins, Sanford, Ford Cooper Jr., Javon Benson, Trayvon Minot. But the big ones, obviously, G.G., Hayden Brown, and Chico Carter, which I think the Chico Carter loss, that was the departure that was really surprising. But you did add a lot of pieces, guys. You added a lot of pieces. You return a lot of experience. South Carolina quadrupled their returning starting experience, or just their starting experience as a whole. Michi Johnson returns. That was the big boost over the offseason. Jacoby Wright is back. Josh Gray is back for his 17th year in a Gamecock uniform. Zachary Davis, Benjamin Bozeman's Verdonk, Eli Sparkman, Abrima Dribba, who we did not get to see last year. He was the transfer from Coastal, right, who had the injury. But the big leader, of course, guys, is Michi Johnson, right? He played in 30 of 32 games last year. South Carolina was 10-20 in the games he played in. He was very, very good. He's the leader, and I think he's going to have a big, big impact on this basketball team yet again this season. And then who did you add, guys? It's unfortunate that Colin Murray Boyles is not going to be able to go. This was a 4-star kid, guys. He is dealing with mono. So I don't know if that's going to keep him out the whole season, if it's going to be how long it's going to be, but he is out for the foreseeable future. You also had freshman Arden Conyers, the 3-star, 6'7", 204, Morris Ugrusuk, 6'4", 190. And then a couple of transfers, guys. The transfer portal for South Carolina was huge yet again. Talon Cooper, the 6'4", 200-pound transfer from Minnesota, who I see in the starting lineup for South Carolina. Miles Stute, the transfer from Vandy, who I think also is in your starting lineup. Stephen Clark, the transfer from the Citadel. And then B.J. Mack was the one I think a lot of folks got really excited about over the offseason. The Wofford transfer, standing at 6'8", 270 pounds. And again, guys, I do see him being a starter as well. So, guys, I'm projecting 3 of the 5 in South Carolina's starting lineup are going to be transfers, which, again, just goes to show you how big of an impact these transfer portal players have. Again, guys, at the point, I've got Talon Cooper. At shooting guard, I got Michi Johnson. At strong forward, I got Miles Stute. Power forward, B.J. Mack. And the center, Josh Gray. We'll see if Josh Gray actually does get the nod for South Carolina. Now, when you look at the schedule, guys, I think the non-conference is actually pretty manageable, right? You've got games against teams like USC Upstate, DePaul, George Washington, East Carolina, Charleston Southern, Winthrop, right? Your smaller in-state games. The standout non-conference games come against teams like Virginia Tech. You're playing in a lot more tournaments, right, than I ever recall South Carolina playing in. They're playing in a number of tournaments this year, just going through the schedule here. South Carolina's taking on Virginia Tech in the Hall of Fame series, which is going to be in Charlotte. They're playing in the AZ tip-off, the Arizona tip-off, I believe, which is going to be, they're taking on DePaul in Phoenix, Arizona. And then we'll play either Grand Canyon or San Francisco in Phoenix as well. Gamecocks are playing in the ACC SEC Challenge when they take on Notre Dame. That's a really notable game there as well. Of course, you got the game against Clemson on a Wednesday this year, which is interesting. Wednesday, December the 6th. That is an 8 o'clock tip-off in Clemson on the ACC network. And outside of that, guys, I mean, those are your notable games. But I think you got a good chance to, at minimum, I think a 9-4 non-conference campaign, maybe 10-3. Hey, maybe you go 11-2, but it doesn't feel like it has the traps or the pitfalls that maybe some of the schedules of years past have had. But again, this is South Carolina, so it's almost like expect a non-conference loss that you don't see coming. It feels like every single year there's some conference loss, there's some non-conference loss or some upset in the non-con that South Carolina suffers. You didn't look at the conference scheduling, guys. The SEC scheduling, folks, they did South Carolina no favors because it's more than likely you're going to start 0-3, right? You got Mississippi State, granted it's on your home floor, but Mississippi State, one of the best teams in the SEC. Then you got to go to Alabama, to Missouri before you finally get relief in a home game against Georgia. You got games against, I'll just go through the whole schedule, at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, Mizzou at home, at Tennessee, at Georgia, Ole Miss at home, Vandy at home, at Auburn, LSU at home, Ole Miss away, Texas A&M away, Florida at home, Tennessee at home, and then Mississippi State on the road to close out the season. So we go back to the question, what are realistic expectations for Lamont Paris in year 2? I think if South Carolina, guys, like, you have to keep in perspective how bad last year was, right? You have to keep in perspective how terrible they were. And so it's not going to happen overnight, right? I mean, everybody's picking South Carolina 14th out of 14 teams in the SEC. Everyone is picking South Carolina at the bottom. So you have to be realistic with your expectations. 11-21 last year, 4-14 in conference. With that being said, I do think South Carolina can hover around that 500 mark. And I think if they do that, guys, I think that's a success. I think if we are in February and we're having conversations about South Carolina, they could be on the bubble for the NIT. If we're having those types of conversations, I genuinely think that is a step forward in the right direction. Because if you're Lamont Paris, you got to continue to build this thing through the transfer portal. You got to continue to build this thing in recruiting. And it's just simply put, guys, it's not going to happen overnight at a place like South Carolina, where you're just shuffling in 5-star freshmen, replacing guys year to year. Like, you have to develop guys. You have to scout guys out. You've got to find diamonds in the rough in recruiting. Feels a lot like football in that sense. I look at this team, though. I look at the starting five. Cooper, Johnson, Stute, Matt, Gray. That's most likely your starting five. And you lose G.G. Jackson. And some people are going to say, how can you improve when you lose a guy like that? Guys, I think you are improved. I think your roster is better. Although you lost G.G., and it's all due respect to G.G., but his best basketball is ahead of him. It's not behind him at South Carolina. That's not to say he was a bad player, right? We saw him flash. We saw him do some big things. But it almost felt like at times the G.G. Jackson thing, it was almost like it was a distraction in a sense, from the sense of the season was about G.G. Jackson. The season wasn't about the South Carolina basketball team putting together a competent product and making a run at anything significant. So I think not having that distraction, I think not having to worry about how do you balance the playing time for the freshmen, it just felt like every game, it was all about G.G. It was all about getting G.G. going. I think not having to do that, not having to worry about that, I think South Carolina is going to be better off for it. I think the Gamecocks are going to be improved. I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters by any stretch. I don't think they will finish last. And while South Carolina was laughably bad last year, you're going to scoff at this, but I think the Gamecocks take a step forward. They'll be respectfully bad this year. They're not going to be great. Carolina's not going to be great. They don't have quality depth. You question even some of the transfers. Guys, they have one transfer that came from a school that was top 100 in the Kim Pomp rankings. I don't know if y'all knew that, but, we'll see how these guys pan out. But I do think South Carolina men's basketball under Lamont Paris in year 2 will take a step forward. If you can be in the conversation for the NIT, if you can be floating around 500 come February or March, that is a fantastic year, I think, in year 2. I think South Carolina's roster, even without G.G. Jackson, is actually improved. And I think not having as many distractions as they had last year, I think they'll be better for it, guys. And I've got South Carolina, again, not going to be world beaters. I've got them at 14-17 overall and 5-13 in the conference. So not a huge step forward. It's not. And I'm admittedly going a little bit conservative with these picks because I tend to give South Carolina too much credit across the board. But I think the Gamecocks, I just think the product is going to be better. I think overall the product is going to be better. And South Carolina fans have got to have patience when it comes to this basketball team and this basketball program. Year 2 of the Lamont Paris era. What do you expect? And what would be success as the Gamecocks basketball program continues to be built? Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into our final break on the side. We'll get into the top questions of the day, take some of your questions, some of your voicemails as well. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars or give them a call today. at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Monday, November the 6th, 2023. We have entered our daily mailbag segment. I want to hear from you, taking your questions, your comments, your calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Monday. Of course, guys, the women are playing right now, beating Notre Dame, I believe. Having a lot of success. Guys, we do have a couple of voicemails. We'll jump into these to kick us off in the daily mailbag segment.
Hey, Chris, it's Bob. I have it for the win, but you're right, Chris. Maybe when you stop being silly, and he needs to be a man and just make a chance. Like look at what he did. Why could he do it? But take care, Chris. Go Gamecocks.
Appreciate the call, man. Again, the Shane Beamer presser stuff. I mean, maybe I'll just make it a rule to not comment on any more Shane Beamer pressers. But I just couldn't help it, man. It's not like me, and I have not built my business around avoiding the hot button issues and the things that are tough conversations for some. And so, some people aren't going to like that. I mean, guys, I'm It is what it is. So let's see. I mean, again, I just don't understand the I don't know. Never mind. We'll just keep it moving forward. Let's see. I think we have one more voicemail here. This one came in on Sunday, but I want to play this. I want to play this one.
Yeah, it's been a Carolina fan for over 50 years. It's Billy. And it's horrible. You get kind of tired of seeing it every single year. This is worse than Nebraska or Muschamp. When you see players laughing on the sideline when you're losing or you're playing a team like Jackson State, it's embarrassing to the school and to the program and to the fans. This instances are better than what's going on now, and it's responsible to say the least. And unless something changes, I think Beamer needs to start thinking about finding another job. I get tired of hearing the same thing every single week where we got to get better, we got to get better, we got to clean stuff up as coaches. It's our problem. Well, you know what? It's kind of like what Muschamp and Nebraska used to say too, and it gets kind of old when you hear the same thing over and over again. But once a Gamecock, always a Gamecock. Look, they've been one for 50 years, and I guess they'll just have to start drinking more on the weekends. Go Cocks.
Thank you so much for the voicemail, my friend. And you know, I mean, that's what the voicemail line is for, guys. It's here for you guys to leave your thoughts, your opinions, and it's frustrating. I mean, this has been a frustrating season. It's been one that has not had a ton of joy. And again, while I'm happy South Carolina won Saturday, guys. I am. I'm happy they won. It's a lot better than a loss. But you know, I think to insinuate that I think you look more like a fool if you're throwing a parade after beating JSU than you do if you're just having normal critical analysis. Because unfortunately, guys, I know my guy Austin Gregory in the comments said that we learned on Saturday South Carolina is the real Gamecocks. That's fair. That's very fair, and it's very true. But outside of that, like we didn't learn anything, man. We didn't learn anything about this football team we didn't already know. Rattler and Leggett, Mario Anderson plays his heart out. Offensive line stinks. Defense can't stop a nosebleed. Special teams is underwhelming as hell this year. And this isn't a good football team. And that's it. And Shane Beamer has a chip on his shoulder. That's it. Nothing, no new information came out from that game. Now, if South Carolina beats Vandy, they go on and beat Kentucky, well, then all of a sudden we say, well, dang, something changed. Something changed. But a win over Jacksonville State just ain't going to do that, man. A win over Jacksonville State's not going to fix all the problems that have been going on. And, again, I'm happy that South Carolina won the football game. Excited to get off that game, start talking Vandy. But, you know, I mean, guys, listen, the season was never about beating Jacksonville State. It wasn't. So I don't blame people for feeling a little bit underwhelmed and not exactly going crazy, jumping for joy, if you will. Like it is what it is, man. So on that note, guys, and as I go through the comments and all, and let's see. Anyways, as I go through the comments, let me just say this. I do have some things to update you guys on. You know, I'm someone that I like to get out ahead of stuff. I don't believe in like hiding behind things. I've there are some things that personal is personal. I'll keep that personal. But outside of that, there are other things that I think I'm very transparent with my audience. I believe in being transparent with my audience. And so you guys have probably heard me talk about this. You know this. And by the way, Madison Duncan, thank you. The score 48-33, South Carolina over Notre Dame at halftime. And by the way, guys, let me mention, I want to make sure people realize, because some people don't, you can have a critical opinion. You can give your analysis. You can give your thoughts. You can not agree with things that maybe Shane Beamer says or the way he does things. But you can also say that while also saying, but I also at the same time think that Shane Beamer is the answer for South Carolina football. I think he's the guy who should be given a chance in the long term, and we'll go from there. That being said, though, and I've always believed in keeping it transparent with you all. As you know, I attack things head on, man. I call it very honestly, very bluntly, and that doesn't always sit well with people that want to come to the Spurs Up show, and for whatever reason, they want to see things from a Gamecock slanted bias or a Garnet Glasses bias or a whatever bias it might be. And The unfortunate part about that is it can affect, people's livelihoods, and it can affect business. It can affect sponsorships, which, is unfortunately part of the game, and it's what keeps the lights on. It puts food in people's tummies, what have you, and it keeps us all going. So with that being said, I've felt that, guys. I've felt the heat from the University of South Carolina. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It's when you think about the success, the level of success that we've had, and you factor in at the same time that the University of South Carolina, in many respects, has been our greatest adversary in that journey, and that Gamecock fans, some of them, the bottom 10%, they've been some of our greatest adversaries. It's incredible how far we have gotten and how far we'll continue to go. That being said, I will no longer be making appearances on Inside the Gamecocks, J.C. Sherbert and Phil Mullinax's show, Jamie Bradford, what have you. And it's something where I don't think JC and them are going to bring anything up or announce anything or what have you, but it's going to come up. It's going to come up, right? You guys are not going to see me on the show on Thursday, and you're going to be asking questions. And I'm not someone that's going to avoid that. Well, this. And it's nothing that JC Sherbert did. It's he and I still have a great relationship. I still have a great relationship with all those guys. But you guys probably already all saw the Garnet and Black Traditions tweet yesterday. They got all up in their feelings and all upset. And I know the guy behind it. He actually, it's funny enough, was a fan of the show back when I started, was at like 500 followers. And now he's one of my greatest haters, always spreading negativity and hate in the comments when I would go on that show. But I believe they and maybe another business partner threatened to pull their sponsorship if I kept going on the show. And, money talks, business talks, until it's nothing personal. But I want you all to understand why that's happening. And that is just a small microcosm of the battles we fight on the daily with the University of South Carolina, with Gamecock entities. And guys, it's one of those things. It's not the main thing, because my goals and aspirations as an entrepreneur, as a growing, thriving human being, as a business owner, I've mentioned you guys many times. Like, you see my t-shirt. It's not a secret. I'm going to expand one day. I'm going to not be solely a Gamecocks entity one day. That's going to happen. It's 110% going to happen, okay? Right? And it just clears the path for that. I'll just leave it at that. So I wanted to make sure you all knew. And, if JC, if that upsets him that I share all that information, I guess I'll face the ramifications with him. But I don't understand the point in not being transparent, guys. I don't understand the point in not being real, keeping it authentic. And so our time on Inside the Gamecocks, I appreciate all the appearances. They had me on their airwaves. It was an absolute blast. Truly enjoyed it. But, I'm not going to sugarcoat things and try to be sunshine and rainbows and be overly optimistic about, or be something and not be true to myself and be something I'm not, just to make folks feel warm and fuzzy inside and just to keep up appearances, if you will. So, money talks. And when you got somebody like Garnet and Black Traditions and others that are threatening to pull their funding and pull their sponsorship of Inside the Gamecocks and their business, that's a shame. That's a shame. And I really hope JC and those guys, I really hope they get to a point to where they have business partners that give them real, true creative control and don't tell them who they can and cannot have conversations with on their own airwaves. Because I got to tell you one thing, I can guarantee you this, I sure as hell would never allow that to happen. Bottom line, point blank, you know what you're getting when you sign up with me, and that's why you sign up. Because my audience, the reason they're so passionately behind us is because I passionately keep it real, keep it authentic, and keep it genuine. And that's the only thing I ever promise to be, is loyal, genuine, authentic, whether you like it, dislike it, what have you, whether Gamecock Nation likes it, dislike it. And the path is clearing. The path is clearing. I will have more details for you all one day very soon. But let me just say, the path is clearing. So, and a lot of this BS will be behind us. So anyways, guys, that's it. Passionate, great show today. Appreciate you all. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. As always, the beauties and the banter. Appreciate each and every single one of you. If you're on YouTube, guys, hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon to get notifications, to make sure, like, when we go live, you're going to know when we go live. We're going to be live every single day this week. Post-game call-in show after the Vandy game will take place as well. Going to be a lot of fun. Also, be sure you hit that subscribe button on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Really exciting stuff, guys. The podcast dropping daily. Outside of that, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great rest of your Monday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.